Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Racing House. My name is Saki. Today we're joined by Adam. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Not...
I've stolen Sebastian Vettel's hair and added it to my own.
Hey.
Well,
I had to get that one in there. Sebastian Vettel's been
how are
the,
you?
the, the talk of the town. I'm good. Just the same old, same old. We were talking about it before we went on air. Just trying to plod along in life. But yeah, today we're just going to be talking about the words from the new F1 boss, which were quite interesting. We'll go into that a little bit later. Lewis Hamilton's contract discussions. We'll also be talking about Williams and their future with their very recent appointment of Jensen Button, and then maybe a few other topics if you've got the time. But moving swiftly on to the words of Stefano Domenicali. I'm glad I got that out reasonably okay. Did you have a chance to read the articles? What did you think of his words? He basically said a lot of positive stuff just to give people some backstory. And I know on a previous stream I was a bit skeptical because of his links with Ferrari. And then I think he's been on bit of a PR rampage because he's been popping up everywhere. He even did a kind of a video interview with Martin Brundle on Sky. And I was pretty impressed with his words. But I'll let you give your thoughts on what you read anyway.
Yeah, as expected, he's very polished, isn't he? He knows what he's aiming for. He knows what he's saying. Um, he's clearly well prepared for the role. I think he's got some clear priorities, and celebrated the progress that's been made recently in the sport, sort of behind the scenes, and has some like big ideas for the future in terms of bringing in younger generation of fans and more OEMs and that sort of project. Which I think it's interesting that he's setting his stall out early and making it
Mm.
clear that he wants a new generation of fans, more OEMs. He's also made some comments about the future of power units and things like that in terms of wanting to continue with hybrids and wanting to kind of show that there's more to the future than just electrification, which was very interesting. Obviously, the F1 power units are the most efficient internal combustion units in the world, which is great. And it's a really good test bed for efficiency and things like that. Yeah, very interesting comments. What did you think?
Do you know what? I completely lost any skepticism around him, any doubts that I had because of his previous links. I was like, this guy is pretty smooth. He's impressive. You can tell, because we were talking about it before, like he's super intelligent just from the way that he speaks and the fact that he gets it. He understands what the problems are. He's saying all the right stuff. He's talking about Gen Z, i.e., bringing in the younger generation, being able to connect with them more and more, which I was super impressed with. How he actually does it, there wasn't actually that much kind of not logic, but explanation on how he's going to do everything. Like he was saying the right things, so it just made me question: is this too good to be true? Because when someone says all the right things, ticks all the boxes, the only way to see if they are going to live up to expectation is to let time run its course. So with him, I'm very excited now after, especially watching that Sky interview, what he has plans in terms of getting like the younger generation involved. The hybrid comments in regards to trying to be persistent in terms of the route that F1's going down. It obviously comes into direct kind of clash with what Formula E are doing or what Extreme E are doing. And I'm not quite convinced that it is the right path to kind of go down and completely ignore EV cars in their own entity. Like I think I've sort of said it many times. Like the prospect of Formula One kind of having a racing category that involves more electrified cars would definitely cater to the developing market. So for him to continue down the hybrid route, it's a bit of a conflicting statement because he's saying yes, we want F1 to be relevant. We want the cars to relate to the cars that are on the roads. But EV cars are probably the most exciting new developments in terms of car production. If you look at companies like Tesla, like it's the benchmark and it's set like the top tier benchmark. And I'm not quite sure he gets it in that sense. Like, I don't know what you thought about it.
Yeah, I see your point. I think there's a few hidden things going on there, because I think if we were at a stage where electric vehicles and electric technology was able to create similar or better performance than hybrids and internal combustion, we'd be doing electric racing tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's Formula One is Formula One because it is the very highest peak of motorsport. And I think anything that would risk Formula One being slower than any motorsport in terms of just raw pace around the track,
Yeah.
can't do that. So until we're at a stage where the electric technology allows for machinery that is capable of lapping, an average F1 circuit quicker than a hybrid or a fully internal combustion car,
Yeah.
no chance.
Yeah.
But then there you look at it in terms of the actual market, the global market. Some of the biggest producers of vehicles in the world are going fully electric. They've done the hybrid thing already. You look at Volkswagen Audi Group, they've done a lot of stuff with hybrids, and then they're moving over to the VW ID range and things like that, and Audi e-tron and all that sort of stuff. So the market is changing and the market is moving, but it's not that pure performance level. So just for everyday use, yeah, I think you could argue, apart from the cost, obviously, because the cost is what removes a lot of people from that market at the moment for now. But it won't be until sustained performance over the same kind of range and cost and that sort of stuff is achievable. We won't see a change from hybrids until then. But it is interesting that he was talking about sustainable biofuels and 100% renewable fueling and things like that. That's interesting. I think that's worth doing, because as much as we sort of in certain areas of the world, like in Western Europe and areas like that, where electrification maybe is coming and it is kind of already on the agenda, a lot of developing countries and sort of F1 developing fan bases are a long way from that yet. They won't have the infrastructure for at least a decade or two, because it's just not realistic.
No.
And there's still go for that, and I think there is still call for hybridisation, and there's the noise as well. There's always the noise argument.
Yeah, the noise. That's very timely because people are complaining about our sound. Guys, if you're in the comments, can you let me know if the sound's any better now? Because I've just taken out my headphones and I've changed mic. Let me know if it's any better now that I've taken my headphones out. We've got a comment from Owen Barry. He's asking, who is the new F1 boss? I haven't heard. It's basically the former Ferrari team principal, Stefano Domenicali. He obviously has experience of managing huge organisations, such as Lamborghini and I think Audi in the past. So he's got that proper experience behind him, where he knows how to manage these huge corporate organisations involved in motorsport. So let's see how he goes. I was very excited, like I said, about the Gen Z comments, and with Formula One, it's always been known as a sport that is reluctant to change. Like we see it time and time again, they're very reluctant to change the way things are and who they're engaging with and who they're getting involved. But with what has happened last year, that's been accelerated. We've seen far more kind of engagement with the younger generation. And where are the younger generation? They're on things like YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I need to get on TikTok, and yes, that's going to be a struggle for me. But yeah, the younger generation are all there, engaging with the F1 content creator community in their own way, and I would really like to see him push that, because I've heard murmurs that he's being genuine about this. He wants to really connect with the younger generation. So let's hope that he pushes through that. Next up, we're going to talk about Williams and how far they are away from really being able to compete, even with just the middle order teams or even the teams at the back, because there's been such a gulf between them and the back markers. Liam talks, he says, I'm part of the younger generation. Liam, congrats on hitting 550 subscribers, I think. Well done. Keep up the good work. Leave a comment and let me know what you think Stefano Domenicali should do to try and connect better with the younger audience. But heading back to Williams, do you think the appointment? Okay, let's flip the question again, actually, because Claire Williams was talking recently about the difficulties that they faced. She was saying that there were a lot of internal struggles. They struggled big time to catch up in terms of developing the car to just basically catch up from one year, and then it compounded year after year after year. Um, but they brought in Jensen Button as an advisor. There's going to be a few questions around this because that caught me out by surprise. I just wanted to see what you thought. Do you think it's the right appointment, firstly?
Yeah, I think it's a good appointment. I think the thing is that one of the concerns with Williams and the way that they're going, obviously with the sale to developing capital and those sorts of things that are happening, is Williams going to lose what makes it Williams? And by bringing in Jensen Button, obviously he's driven for Williams in the past and he's an iconic British racing driver and he's well known for his successes. I think that brings back a little bit of that heritage and a little bit of that allure to Williams, where it is, they trade off the idea of being the small family-run team with iconic names and the underdog. And Jensen Button was consistently that throughout his career. Obviously, his championship with Brawn and all that sort of stuff. He was known as one of the greatest underdog stories.
Mm.
So I think he fits nicely there. Obviously, there's people levying a little bit of criticism at the appointment, saying that he's now started this Extreme E team and how's his time going to be spent.
Have they really been criticising him?
Yeah, they're saying how is he going to do both?
What?
Not realising that there's like 5 or 6 dates for Extreme E in the year, and that he's only a consultant role. So he's probably going to do 2 or 3 days a week at Williams, apart from when he's doing Extreme E duty, and he might do 1 day a week or just be available on Zoom. This is realistically what he's going to do. He's going to be wheeled out at important events. He's going to be wheeled out at shareholder meetings. He's going to be wheeled out at certain points in the calendar to help George Russell and Nicholas Latifi with developing the car. He's going to do all the good things in the photo shoot. He's going to do all the good things in the interviews. He's going to go home. But it's an important role. It is an important role, and he's an important figurehead, and he's a great ambassador for Williams to be able to lean on for this. But he's not there to turn the team upside down on his own. And I think that's where people are getting a little bit stuck in terms of Jensen Button's back at Williams. Oh my God, this means this means that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that much, but it is kind of a statement of intent.
Yeah, I think it's a positive statement of intent as well, because I think the media might have made a little bit more out of it than it actually was. Like you've just described, he's going to do certain things, but when a consultant or an advisor comes in, their role is very limited because they're not part of the company, they're not part of the leadership. They're there on a short-term basis, and it's not a long-term contract for them or their full-time employment. So we have to wait and see how much involvement he actually has. I think you're pretty much right in terms of the involvement that he has. He's going to be there almost like a bit of a brand ambassador. But I did like the point that you made about him potentially helping out in terms of the development of the car. I think that's going to be a huge part to play because he's been obviously in F1 for a very long time. He's not there at the moment, but he knows what it takes to develop a car. He's worked at the top teams. He's worked at a championship winning team, albeit with Ross Broad in charge, who's pretty elite when it comes to managing teams.
He's a walking championship, isn't he, Ross Brawn? If you look at his history, he's a walking championship.
He is. He's pretty impressive. I'm just wondering if they could have brought on anyone else, but maybe they planned to do that, bring in other people. It would be quite cool to see what their plans actually are. We've got Liam in the comments asking, is there any chance I can come on and talk about it? Hopefully one day. Drop me a DM and hopefully we can get something sorted. Time to choose smaller, better looking and better sounding cars will help the sport also. Got 925 Motor, love your show bro, keep up the good work. Be consistent, just like Mercedes. I'm going to take that and run with that. Consistency is key. I definitely haven't been consistent enough in the past. But yeah, I'm going to try and keep on with those. What do you think about the smaller, better looking cars? Do you think you'll get that in 2022?
I think that's part of the idea, isn't it? To make the cars a little bit more streamlined is the wrong word, obviously, but to make them a little bit neater and smaller. I think if you look at, obviously, there's been some like visual representations of the sizes of the cars, and yeah, I agree they've got way too big. And I understand that some of it is crash structures, and there needs to be certain things there, but they're just too big. I just think they're too big, and some of the issues with overtaking and the competitiveness of the racing are compounded when every few years the cars get bigger because then you have less space on track to get by someone. So if you imagine when the cars were tiny, in Monaco you could probably get by a few people every now and then. But now it's just not. It's just a time trial on a Saturday. It is. So I think making the cars smaller and lighter and louder would be beneficial. The only thing is, the more efficient these engines get, by science, the quieter they get, because obviously sound is a byproduct, it's a waste product in terms of efficiency. So if we want these engines to maintain their internal combustion element, and we want to carry on increasing efficiency, they're not going to get that much louder because noise is waste. And the engineers know this. So, and the cars now, despite their size and their weight, are the quickest they've ever been. So I think if we can just reduce the scale ever so slightly, I think we're getting somewhere, and it will make for more competitive racing.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't have the technical knowledge like you, but it sounded pretty good. And I remember recently, I think it was at the last race of the year where Fernando Alonso turned up in that car behind me. That car? I'm trying to see. Yeah, that car right there.
That's a really good plug.
Yeah. No, yeah, the poster. Just a bit of some minor artwork. But yeah, when Fernando turned up in that car and the sound of that car going round, the speed, I think it just made even Lewis Hamilton at the time when he was being interviewed, he was just like, "What is that? That sound is beautiful." So let's see what they do. I've got a funny feeling they're not going to really do much in terms of the sound, but yeah, the cars may get a little bit smaller. We've got another question from Sharon. He's asking who will come out on top, Leclerc or Sainz. It's a very good question. I'm actually going to be doing a video in the next few weeks about Carlos Sainz and Ferrari, so keep an eye out for it. I'm going to have to think about this and let you go first.
Yeah, go on then.
Classic.
I think, I would say Leclerc is going to win that matchup based on the length of time that he's been there. Mm-hmm. I actually think Leclerc I think he's definitely top 3 or 4 in terms of drivers in the paddock, and I don't think many people would disagree with that.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't put Sainz above that. Obviously, Charles got experience with the car, experience with the team. They know him well. He's got a good relationship with his race engineers. You know, he brought the most possible out of that Ferrari this past season. Mm-hmm. I think Carlos is great. I think he's got. Obviously, people are saying that he's going to be the number 2 driver, but I think they're hoping that it's going to be 1 and 1A more than him being number 2. But yeah, I'm surprised that people are thinking that Carlos is going to beat Leclerc. Personally, what do you think?
It's hard. It's going to be hard for me to answer this question without giving too much away for the upcoming video, but keeping it very short and sweet. Sainz has no other option but to beat Carlos and beat Charles, or at least match him. He doesn't have runway. He doesn't have time to get up to speed. He just doesn't have it at all because of who he's up against. The fact that Charles in his first season beat Marcus Ericsson. Is it Marcus Ericsson? I can't remember. Magnus Ericsson.
Yes. Yeah.
He beat him in his first season in F1, and Ericsson had been in F1 for about 4 years at that point. No runway at all. He's done it. He did it to Vettel as well. So Sainz should be able to beat him if he's got the ability there inherently. If he's going to do it at any point, he needs to do it straight away. I don't think it's going to happen personally. I just worry for Sainz a little bit. in that position. Like, obviously, it's an opportunity that's too good to turn down. Like when Ferrari come knocking, you don't really say no unless you're a 7-time world champion and you can just afford to chill. So that is a good question. Thank you for sending it in, guys. Keep on sending in the questions. Hit the like button if you're joining for the first time and enjoying. We've got Kira, Megan, F1. Thank you for joining. Got the F1 guy saying I need to be more active on Twitter. I struggle with Twitter. I do need to be more active. I need to set some new month resolutions.
You need those followers to encourage you to post, though, don't you?
Yeah, so yeah, go and follow me on Twitter, Racing House UK on Twitter, and yeah, just pester the hell out of me, and I'll tweet more. Got a question from 925 Motor. How much longer do you think Lewis will be in the sport for? That's a good question. I don't think he'll be in it for too much longer. Max 2 years, based on the way negotiations are going. This leads on nicely, actually, to the next topic that we'll be talking about. Kind of lag and the delay in the contract confirmation or decision on Lewis Hamilton's contracts. We've seen a lot of media articles out there. For me, I don't think they'll offer him a long-term contract because of his age. The fact that they know they've got George Russell there that can beat Bottas without even having that much time to prepare. He's got what it takes. He's got the ability to do it. But saying that, Russell in his time in that car, there's that element that Lewis Hamilton brings that Russell just won't bring, purely because of his age, experience. I'm not even talking about levels of skill either. We don't need to go there at the moment, but it was clearly lacking. I doubt that Lewis would have allowed that to happen. What happened in that last penultimate race, where he was being called into the pits when they didn't have to. I'm pretty sure Lewis would have just said no, because he would have been able to just manage the tyres. The king of managing tyres, Bono, my tyres are gone. He wouldn't have bothered to go into the pit, in my opinion. It's unlikely to have happened. I know they were trying to cover off the other teams, but yeah, for the first instance anyway, the slow puncture, obviously you can't kind of preempt that. But I don't see Lewis staying for longer than 2 years. I think he'll try and beat Schumacher's record, get to 8. He might stay around for the new regs, but I don't think he'll stay much longer than that, because he's literally got so much to offer the world. Whenever he reels out a new talent of his on Instagram or social media, I'm like, how good is this guy? He can play the piano, can snowboard, he can sing. What else can he do?
I was just laughing at the conversation we had about that song that he did with Christina Aguilera.
I'm so surprised you didn't know that he basically confirmed that was his song. No,
No, I didn't. Yeah, I must have been having a break. But yeah, if you've not read the lyrics for Lewis's song with Christina Aguilera, treat yourself. There's something to do.
Yeah, don't listen to the song with your parents about. It'll get a bit awkward. But yeah, I enjoyed that song anyway. I was impressed with his voice. The lyrics maybe needed a little bit of work. That's the conclusion we came to. What do you think about Lewis and his time frame? Think he'll be around for too much longer? What do you think?
Well, at the moment, I wouldn't even be surprised if he didn't come back. I think.
What, for next year?
I think that's. I think there's a possibility. I would be surprised if he did.
Do you know what? Last year I was like, I really want to go and see him win a race at Silverstone, and then obviously what happened because of the pandemic. Don't say that, man.
But yeah, I think my prediction would be that he's going to do one more year, get 8 titles, reach 100 wins, and then retire.
So okay.
Because what more is there to do? Because he's on 92 or something like that wins. So what more is there? If he achieves that, and he stands alone with 8 titles, he stands alone with 3-figure wins, and I assume he'll do the same with pole positions because he's about there anyway. If he can achieve that, then he can walk out, and no one could ever question him. I think because it doesn't matter if you've got the best car, it doesn't matter if you're in the best team, it doesn't matter if you've been lucky with the moves that you've made through your career. To win 100 races and to achieve 8 world titles, you have to be among the elite of the elite to do that. And I think that achievement, I think he's got his eyes on it. And I don't know if his hunger for the sport is quite the same as what it was. Well, I take that back. I think he's more interested in other things than he has been previously. So while he's still got a passion for the sport and he still wants to contribute to the sport and use that as a platform for his other things, I think his other things are also occupying more of his mind now than previously. And he's got to think about what he's going to do when he retires, because I don't think he's going to be the sort that he retires and then we never hear from him again. I don't think there's any chance of that.
No, I've got a feeling that he will just make potentially more of an impact outside of F1 than he will inside of F1. That's saying something. I know it's a bit of a ludicrous thing to say, given that he's just won his 7th title, but the guy just goes beyond anything that we can relate to in the sport. Like, he's superhuman in the sport, but also outside of the sport, people relate to him. He's got that star factor that when he says something, people stop and listen, and they create campaigns such as We Racers One. Chucking F1 under the bus there, but yeah, they stop and they listen. We've got a few comments in here. We've got Race Craze TV saying, I took my F1 loving daughter to F1 live in the West End a few years back, and for the first time she heard the engines of the 80s, 90s and the noughties, she immediately fell out of love with the current cars. Oh, that's a sad story.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe she can fall back in love with the cars. It says less noise loses generations, which may be true. I'm still in love with the sport, so Liam, send me a DM on Instagram or leave a comment on one of my posts. I'll get back to you. Yeah, 925 Motor says Lewis singing, but it would be nice to see him drive for Williams and get them to the podium and show the world he is the greatest driver, and not only because he drove with Mercedes. Oh my! I would actually pay to see that as well. It's a bit of a mad concept, but I like your aspiration for Williams. The fact that he's that good a driver that he can turn them into a race winning team. I can barely say the sentence, but yeah.
People would just say that it was because that Williams is using the Mercedes gearbox and have got rid of Claire because she was rubbish, apparently, according to like 50% of social media. And then they just blame it on the fact that it's using stuff that he had anyway. They'd find some way to hate.
Yeah. They'll say it's some new aerodynamic piece on the car and stick it on that or something or the other.
Now maybe that's too sceptical, but yeah, I think no matter what you do, there's always going to be criticism. You look at every driver that's won a title. If you look at every championship, there's always been a criticism levied at them, always.
Yeah,
and that's fine. It's part of the sport.
Yeah, and I think, do you know what? Like, I remember Michael Schumacher in his last few years at Ferrari, and it wasn't the love and joy about Michael Schumacher that you get now. Like, it just wasn't. I just think it's the nostalgia factor coming into play. The fact that Michael isn't about now. He's obviously had that accident, but it wasn't like overwhelming love for the guy. People were bored of it. People were bored of him. They were like, yes, Fernando Alonso's come along and beating the great Michael Schumacher. Like, so it's just a bit of a sobering moment to remember that the love often comes way after the drivers have retired and that dominant force isn't in the sport, and you realise how good they were. So yeah, we'll read a few more comments. Got one from Dean Branda. So, how do you think the race in Jeddah will be? I've not read or seen many videos about this new track. Go on, Adam.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of scepticism, isn't there, coming from coming from various reports about the track layout and if it's going to be an actual racing track or if it's going to be an exhibition of the sport to rich individuals in a certain part of the world, which has been levied at other tracks elsewhere in the calendar. I think it will be good to see another street race, something a little bit different. I for one, prefer a street race that's got long straights and a few overtaking opportunities to these big, open, modern Tilkedromes. I know there's been like backwards and forwards over the Tilkedromes, but there's when you've just got acres and acres and acres of concrete and runoff and all that sort of stuff. It's not quite the same. It's not the same atmosphere as driving past historic buildings and areas of like global importance. So I think it'll be good. I think it's a good addition in terms of the track. In terms of the politics, that's another thing, and we could probably spend an hour talking about that. But yeah, I hope it's a good circuit. That's it, really. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's good when the teams, when F1 brings in these new tracks and these new venues. We've seen last year the excitement came from the unknown of those tracks that we'd not been to for a couple of years or the tracks that we'd never been to. So when we introduce a new race onto the calendar completely, I think it keeps it fresh. Like you said, it has to have the right elements, the right mix of challenges, and it can't just be a no risk track. I know safety's come a long way, and safety is the most important thing. But if you've got all that runoff and that just, I think, the French track where it's just a sea of blue, and there's just, if you make a mistake, you're not going to get punished even a little bit. You're just going to go straight off and rejoin. So I'm really looking forward to see what they've got in kind of mind for that track, and hopefully it will bring some excitement, just like it did last year. I don't know if anyone's seen the layout of the track. Leave a comment in the comment section below. We've got Liam Talks F1 leaving a long comment, which I'm not going to read. I'm just going to move on to the last article that we included. It's a bit of a no-go area, but it kind of ended with Lawrence Stroll completely saying the rumours of Aston Martin being sold completely untrue. I know we talked about Aston Martin briefly in the last stream, but they're not going to be sold to a Chinese business or group of investors. He's come out and completely kind of said that's not true. It's complete bull. What do you expect from Aston Martin in the next year? Are you excited to see them?
I think it'll be good. I've the number of mock-up livery designs I've sent you from social media and things like that, and the things that we've talked about, loads. Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the car revealed, and looking forward to seeing the change in the branding and things like that. Because I think Aston Martin's a brilliant brand, but I think it may be slightly unrealistic to expect them to suddenly do amazing things. The thing that a lot of people forget is that had they not had that penalty for the brake dogs early on in the season, they would have finished third in the championship. And there's a lot of people that are suggesting that, well, we've spoken about it before, that the rules were applied retrospectively once they'd been changed. So if you actually look at the rulings and the guidelines that were there in place, Racing Point, depending on how you feel about it, didn't actually break the rules, but the rules were then tightened up to kind of be more bulletproof, and then they were docked points.
Dodgy.
So I can understand why there was frustration there, and if that had not happened, they would have finished third. So I think aiming for that again is reasonable. I think aiming for third is reasonable. I don't think there's going to be much more than that, because I just think Mercedes and Red Bull are in their own little area. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what McLaren do with that Mercedes power unit, and to see if they can adjust the car to that quick enough and have some progress with that. And also interesting to see how Alpine pick up on Renault's charge towards the end of the season. But there's that little group, and then Ferrari obviously as well. That midfield group I think is going to be really good again next year. It's going to be a banger again.
Sorry, you just included Ferrari in the midfield teams.
But it's true,
And
though,
it was
isn't
so
it? Where else are they?
surreal. Oh my god, that's depressing.
It's
That is
true.
depressing. Oh god.
It's true.
It is true though, but I want to see
Do you
them at
think,
the top.
do you realistically think that a Ferrari are going to finish higher than fourth in the Constructors' Championship?
No, I don't. But I think they'll come back stronger than people expect. Like, you can't have two bad seasons like that as a Ferrari team in a row. I just don't think they do it. Like, if it gets that bad, they put the money and the people, the resource to get them back to being a competitive team. So that's what
Do
history
you think they'll
is.
finish higher than fifth?
Yeah, maybe. The thing is, the other teams are just so strong. But also with Alpine, with Aston Martin, I reckon there's going to be a bit of a transition and a lag because of the drivers basically just getting up to speeds. Obviously, counts for Ferrari, so it negates itself actually. But I think McLaren are the ones to watch for me. I think with Andrea Seidel there in charge, they would have been working with Mercedes for a long time to make that transition with the engine as smooth as possible. We'll be doing a video on that as well. I've written the scripts. After a long day at work, I've written the script for a McLaren themed video on what I expect from them in 2021 and what my hopes are. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. But that's pretty much it. Liam talks motorsport, not Liam talks F1. Thanks for correcting me, Liam. Perfect. If you're watching this, please hit the like button. If you're watching this on playback, just make sure you comment, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and subscribe if you're joining us for the first time. But that's pretty much it for today. Thank you for joining. Yeah, until next time, everyone. Bye.